we are starting the recording, and so let's get right into it. Legends, welcome back to another weekly webinar. This is always my favorite time of the week. It's time for me to think freely and talk to you guys, just on a hypothetical level and kind of see where we potentially see structure moving. And so markets have been choppy. We all know that. Some of us are not pulling trades simply for the fact that conditions are not the best. The ones that are and are able to get pips out of it, shout out to you guys. If you guys don't know what these webinars are for, what I do, Legends, is I break down these $6 index pairs from the longer time frames all the way down to the shorter time frames, and I give outlooks from a longer time frame perspective as well as more of an execution perspective on how we could potentially expect structure to move. And so this week I'm very excited to get into it. And so I wanted to talk to you guys real quick about conditions and what I typically do in conditions such as these. And then from there, we're going to be breaking down into the analysis. And so many of you guys who have been trading in the markets these past couple of weeks have potentially noticed that the markets have been extremely choppy, extremely consolidated, and have been tough to get good entries. I know that we have been hunting trades, like, for example, last week, when I came out with the IGTV video telling you guys why I didn't pull trades, everything just moved too impulsively. What I typically do in things like this, just simply sit on my hands and watch. I'm not really interested in getting quicker term movements. I like more progressive movements that are coming about at a rate that I can feel comfortable with entering. And you guys have to understand the majority of my work as a trader is already done. Why are you guys asking that? Well, you guys got to understand when I start the year, I always start the year with a set lot, right? And so whatever I decide to risk can never increase more than 5%, but ideally averaging between 1 and 3. You guys have to understand that as time goes on and as I trade, that risk gets watered down tremendously, right? And so even I'm dealing with the same lot, all my work has been done throughout the first 2 quarters and a half. And so Q3 per se is for me a slower time anyway. Q4 I typically do my best, but just stating in general, if things aren't going as planned, it's perfectly fine. I'll just sit and wait until something simply happens. But this week, Legends, after I was reviewing the setups last night, it seems like we got some really good plays, and on top of that, there isn't much data coming out. So I'm excited to be swinging. I'm excited to, when I mean swinging, pulling the trigger and taking some trades. And so I'm excited to go over structure with you guys. I'm not going to necessarily focus so much, guys. And like I said, I don't have really any real analysis on dollar. I just have zones and some trends, and that's it. Main analysis on the other $6 index pairs. But I'm not going to go so much into the longer time frames this week, guys, simply for the fact that I want to just mainly focus on just the dailies, and down structure hasn't changed much on the longer time frames. And so if you guys want a really comprehensive and in-depth approach and how I go about that, definitely take a look at any other webinar that I've done before, because I always go really in-depth with how each structure is looking. But I quickly just want to show you guys what I mean by this, and then we're really going to focus just from weekly down and really get a sense of, okay, well, what is structure potentially doing? If you start and we take a look at dollar index, right? Nothing's going on. We're just not making any significant movements on the monthly. We've talked about it multiple times of why we're rejecting, why we're pulling off. We see a lot of rejection occurring within, this 94.15, 95 handle and below down to 92, 93 area. But there's no point of trying to assess right now, and that's why I'm not going to really focus on it in this webinar. From a longer time frame perspective, where could structure move to? There's just right now at this current moment, we're not making enough significant movements. You look at most pairs across the board, it's been ideally trading within the same range for the last couple of weeks. That's all we're going to focus on. That's it, right? Until we crack out of those key areas, that's all we care about. And so looking at it, guys, we're going to start from the weekly, really focus more on the daily and 4 hour, and showing and going over trade ideas of how we could potentially look at it. Hope you guys enjoy this. Do know that I do answer all your questions at the end, Legends. So if you guys want to type them out in the chat rooms or save them, and then speak after, be my guest. And so hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into it. So weekly on the dollar, Legends, still nothing occurred last week, but we can see one thing. This is a basic candlestick movement or pattern that we teach in my course. We do see this huge impulse to the upside. Now we know that this is not continuation, but this is a reversal pattern. if you guys watched my IGTV video that I released last night, I review how a trend comes about and forms. And so if you're looking at dollar right now, this is a perfect example of A, how we're going to expect a pullback, and B, more importantly, what the candles are telling us. So we see this huge rally to the upside. We know there's no liquidation. We know there's no relief or profit taking occurring. On top of that, we can see that we're at a pretty critical area here, the monthly resistance, right? I have to update that. Apologies, legends. And that should be monthly support. But regardless, monthly resistance, monthly support, we're just going to say that, you know, there is a tremendous amount of pending orders sitting within this region. And on top of that, we do need some liquidation. We do need some pullback. So the candles are starting to decelerate, starting to exhaust, and therefore telling us that at some point we're going to see a big push to the downside, whether it's fundamentally driven or we do start to see some serious technical pressure from the bearish side. And so looking at it, we should be expecting some type of downplay. The question is how long, right? Because we can see potential formations coming about. This could start to move to the downside, create that inverted head and shoulders. This 95 handle will be your neckline. And then from there, this would be considered as relief for a state of liquidation, creating that third point, just like I discussed in the IGTV video yesterday, creating our higher low. And if we do break out, potentially could flag all the way to break above 95. So short term, though, we're expecting that downward movement. And so we're just waiting for when these lows are going to start cracking and start warranting that, you know what, this initial break to the upside above this previous monthly resistance is now false. And so, like I said, you got key critical areas here. You do got that 92 handle that we can see potential pullbacks to, as well as you do have 93.50 and then, you know, that 94.15. Looking at it, if we do break these lows, we could expect a potential pullback, and then from there we could expect drops down. Once again, everything is going to be warranted as short term. You have to factor in that the entirety of the momentum is still ascending and still appreciating. So therefore, all of these counter trend movements will be treated as relief regardless of how long of a movement it makes. The degree of the pullback doesn't matter unless we start to invalidate this initial bullish movement. And so we continue to drop. We're simply just going to move to the next area where we're going to expect a lot of bullish pending orders to start coming about. And then at some point, we are going to expect this to start kicking in. Even if it rallies all the way back down to between, you know, 90.50 and 91.50, doesn't matter. This bullish run started when it broke this previous resistance. So therefore, this could just become a structural retest and start flagging out back to the upside. Like I said, the only way that we're going to invalidate this initial bull run is we have to start breaking back below it, stating that that was a false break. So for the short term, we are going to expect downward pressure on dollar. And for all you crypto heads out there that are expecting that crypto run, right, you do need dollar to start to depreciate a little bit to start get a bit of a lift off. And so maybe this is starting to come about. Who knows? Hint, hint, right? Cyclically speaking, cryptos take off, right, all in July. And dollar looks like it's about to tank for the next, like, 2 months, 3 months. No? Okay, I'm just kidding. So, yeah, if that comes about, that would be another reason on why cryptos start rallying as well, just simply for the fact that indexes across the board are depreciating. And so looking at it, we're just going to focus on everything else from a daily perspective. And hello, what was that? I'm not interested in the ultimate penny stock. No, thank you. Okay. So looking at it, we're just going to look at daily and everything down, nothing above anymore, guys. Like I said, there has been no significant movement within most of the pairs. And so looking at Euro to begin, legends, what do we see here? Well, yeah, we do see a lot of pending orders sitting in that 115 handle. That's given. We can see to the left here that we did receive false breaks and things of that nature. But on top of that, definitely creating a really strong base. We understand that. Okay. Now, if you guys understand pattern formations and things of that nature, we can see that there is a beautiful potential head and shoulder setup coming about. Some people are calling this the right shoulder. I'm not necessarily buying it. I'm stating that this potentially could pull back more to that previous left shoulder that formed, creating that right shoulder, still treated as relief or a state of liquidation. Or once again, we could pull back all the way to where the initial sell started by breaking the lows, and still would be treated as relief. And then from there, we would start expecting another push to the downside because this would be warranted as a structural retest, right? Shout out to my full volume training course students. You guys know what I am talking about here in the two types of retest. And so it's going to be tough to gauge when Euro is going to make its drop. Most likely it's going to be due something from a fundamental perspective, only for the fact that that 115 is definitely very strong. Reason being is if you go to the weekly and you can see that EU was range bound for about 3 years, it's basic support and resistance. And so therefore all the bears on this area, once we broke above here, buyers start taking control. And so it's tough to say right now where we are going to move long term, so we're only going to assess short term. Let's pull it to the 4-hour real quick, legends. Let's take a look at what we are potentially expecting, what we could see on EU and for the next 24 to 72 hours. So if you guys understand impulses, relief, corrective movements, and things of that nature, this was quite a strong drop. And so therefore this range, this consolidation is all simply a state of liquidation or profit taking. Now, reason being, legends, is that, you know, a currency cannot appreciate or depreciate forever. It's not healthy for the economy. You do need to see some type of liquidation within any given price. And so looking at in structure inside the range, you have to remember, since we are range bound, everything is short term, and you're keeping in mind that the entirety of the momentum is still bearish. Excuse my squeaky chair, legends. I have to get that fixed. I had a chair before, legend, when I was running ThatFxTrader, and it broke, and I literally was sitting with no back. And then this one now is very squeaky. No luck with chairs. Sorry, short story. And so going back into it, yeah, WD-40. I should get WD-40. It was a really nice chair too. I thought that, you know, this was going to be the one that was going to keep for a while, but obviously not. Here's what it is. Sorry, legends, that was a little off topic. So, but going back into it, since we are range bound, everything's going to be warranted in short term, right? But on top of that, you do want to keep in mind that the entirety of the momentum is bearish. So therefore, even if you're taking buys, you're still fighting A, the short term, B, the entirety of the momentum. And so therefore, looking at it from where we are as of right now, we can see that Draghi caused this huge push to the downside. I need to go back. I don't know why my subscription is not updated. This is so annoying. Apologies, legends. And so Draghi caused a huge impulse to the downside, in which this is all treated as a state of liquidation or profit taking, right, legends? Now notice this, EU is in fact rejecting this 117 handle, you know, showing that where this initial drop occurred is when we created lower lows by breaking this previous support. Therefore, this turns into newfound resistance, or bullish pending orders turns into bearish pending orders. And so buys are short term, but you can still attempt to run it into those previous regions. Just know that you're going to be fighting a massive army within there. Now, within this, legends, even though we are stating that this is all state of liquidation, short term, you are still ascending. It doesn't mean that the buys are not viable. They're just short term and higher risk. On top of that, if you legends are part of my full volume training course, you guys know that when I use the roller coaster analogy, you always want to talk about where a trend starts and where it finishes, and that will gauge the type of risk exposed environment that you potentially could be in. You can see here that where I'm circling is the beginning of this ascending trend. And as we're moving, we're kind of sitting in the middle, stating that this trend will end here, as that's the top of the range, and that's all we could expect structure to push to. And so factor in this. You are range bound, meaning buys and sells are short term, but the entirety of the momentum is bearish, so you're still looking for sells in its entirety. On top of that, you can even see a bigger term impulse. I should have taken the annotations off. I knew someone was going to do that. My bad. And so therefore, you know, even though this ascending movement is treated as a correction, it's just a higher risk. That's all. I might signal this though if we do break out. So in looking at it, we can see a short-term impulse to the upside. This is all treated as relief or a state of liquidation. If we do start to break out of the last lower high, creating a short-term higher high, then a short-term pullback, we could expect a rally back to the tops here, legends, and potentially back to the daily resistance. But once again, this is ideally all you want to be running EU into. If you see a clean break above daily, look for continuation on the smaller time frames to start running that back up again. Only reason being is that once you get up into this region, that's when you want to start saying, okay, well, we potentially could tag at the tops of this range, but at the same time, I know that the sell occurred by breaking this previous low, and so therefore I can see already a previous false break occurred there. I don't want to incur a double top and then this start to crash to the downside, right? And so looking at it, legends, you do have a viable buy here, but it's going to have to first be warranted by breaking out of this last lower high, invalidating the short-term bearish momentum, and then from there you could expect a rally back up. Now, the sell being, some people were stating and asking me, Albert, can I take this sell even though we broke out of this ascending trend? You guys know that trend is not a straight line direction, but rather a consistency of highs and lows. And so even though we broke out of the ascending trend, if you didn't take the short-term sell on the break of these lows, right, you know, I wouldn't have even taken that, only because the R&R wouldn't have been the best. Stops would have been here, and your first take profit is down to here. It's all right, not really the greatest trade, and it's short term because the ascending momentum started by breaking these highs. So this is all treated as relief, even when we get down to this low, unless we break below, invalidating this initial bullish trade. And so that should give you guys indications now of where the first short-term sell can come about. It will come by simply breaking back below, short-term pullback, and then you could expect to run it back down. Once again, that's so short term. May not even be interested in something like that. Really, the best sell for you guys to start taking down to the lows of the range of the consolidation is waiting for this entire floor to break around the 117.50 handle. Once you see a strong enough push to the downside, look for a continuation below, and then from there, look to run that all the way back down to the daily support. Safest trades, legends, are going to be above here and simply below, that 116, 115.50 handle. Only reason is that everything else is quite choppy. It becomes quite consolidated. You can see that there was a tremendous amount of pending orders and in a lot of previous regions. And so, it does cause for market conditions to act in an aggressive manner. If you guys want to know the safest plays for EU, it's going to be above the weekly resistance, invalidating this initial bearish play. Same time, you're going to want to see below the lows of the range, simply for the fact that you want to state that the trend is continuing off this bearish momentum, and we are seeing lower lows being formed, right? And so, all in all, legends, on EU, short term, once again, there's not really much viable options. You got potentially one leg back up to the tops. You potentially got one leg back down to the lows if we break out of this ascending, warranting continuation of this initial drop made by Draghi. So simply going to be a wait and see matter on something like this. USD CAD, I want to take a look at this in the weekly with you guys. Why? Ignore this for a second. Even though we broke out of this descending trend line here, I'm not convinced that Mastering Penny Stocks looks good. I'm not convinced that we are still breaking out of here, legends. I want to take a look at a naked chart with you guys real quick, and let's take a look at this in a different color scheme. So excuse the brightness real quick, legends. So you guys should all be able to see that very clearly. And so let's take a look at this right here. Just taking a look from a different perspective, not using any levels, things like that. Even though we broke out of this descending trend, right? You want to take into consideration what type of structure that we are in. And so looking at it, right, we can see here that this is, yes, it is an ascending movement, but it's more treated as a state of liquidation. And on top of that, you can see that the nature of the behavior of CAD, that's ideally how it moves before you will receive these huge drops. Now, even though we broke out in this region right here, is that to state that, this is all invalid? Not necessarily. Only because you have to remember at the time when this wasn't created, when we had this point here, the trend that, that formed was we broke out of this, created this short-term state of liquidation or relief, but the drop occurred, legends, once we, in fact, came back to the previous region where this bearish momentum started by breaking these lows, creating a structural retest, and then we dropped. Now, once again, if you notice where CAD is as of right now, it's in the same exact region of where this initial bearish momentum occurred, and therefore this is potentially creating a structural retest. Now, is that to say that, Albert's wrong, and that I'm right, and that this is going to start dropping immediately? Not necessarily. That's not to say that at all, for one reason. This is definitely a strong enough bullish play to state that the buyers are here. We're definitely seeing some type of relief or state of liquidation within the current structure that we are in. And so looking at it, legends, right? Excuse me on that one. So looking at it, could we flag out and break one more? Yes, but I wouldn't be surprised if we tag the tops or even falsely broke and then start crashing straight down. I would not be surprised on that. The only way that I'm going to state that CAD is in fact continuing very hard to the upside is if we start to really continue to push back above these previous regions. Because one thing that you really have to factor in is that the nature of this liquidation phase and this one are the same exact amount of pips. You guys take a look real quick. Will this color show up? No, I'll need black on this. Still won't show up. Sorry, legends. I'm trying to show you guys. Oh, I could do this one. So yeah, if we see the tops here, it's about 1,337. And if we see the tops on this one here, we're at about 1,315. Right. So just look at that real quick. And I'm glad that, a lot of people are staying on. I appreciate that. So check this out. Even though we broke out of this, descending trend line, the movement is nothing of difference. This ascending push to the upside, 324, and this ascending push to the upside is about 320. They're the same exact push. So some might say, well, that's why I'm not stating CAD's a big buy yet. That's why I'm so, careful on not pulling triggers on CAD. When shifting and changing in corrections such as these, legends, you have to be extremely, extremely careful. Because you don't know if these breakouts, these pushes are in fact invalidated, or if they are actually going to potentially shift. Now, If we take a look just real quick, and then we're going to go into the smaller time frames of USD CAD, we can see that, you know, the real lows to break is sitting around 120, 119. If we crack that, we should continue down to parity. So looking at it, you know, this could be all treated as a state of relief or liquidation. Tough to say. Like I said, we have to crack out of here. And then from there, we could start continuing back up. So it will be really interesting to see what happens. But that, I just want to show you guys, from not using any levels or things of that nature, how we could look at USD CAD from a longer time frame, because it is changing its structure potentially. I want to just review that for you guys, but I'm not convinced yet. Like I showed you guys, both ascending movements before the big drop moved in about 1,324 pips. So that is why I'm stating, unless we start to exceed much more, I'm not going to necessarily state that the buyers are still in control. But short term, they're still there. But going back, legends, that looks much better, much easier to see on the eyes. Okay. So taking a look at the daily and then the 4 hour, no significant movement, right? Just like I went over with you guys, we can see that we are still in this state of liquidation. After we made this huge drop down, this is going to be all warranted as profit taking within the bigger picture, of course. And then we have a more of an impulsive movement within side. Now, like I said before, we created a structural retest to the left of that initial bearish drop. Remember, guys, we stated that was going to happen on the last webinar. That was something that we stated we could expect to push straight up and then simply drop back down. Not this one entirely. I believe it was the smaller one here. Yeah, because that one happened 2 weeks ago. And so looking at it, though, what could we potentially expect? Tough to say as of right now. Let me unlock. Thank you. Oh, hello. Okay. Sorry, guys. TradingView acting finicky on this. Okay, so looking at it right now, tough to say. We are range bound, but we are ascending. And so looking at it, we do have this sharp impulse down, created this state of liquidation or relief short term. It's tough to say, legends, right? You know, some traders are going to take this short term buy back to the upside. I'm not interested in that. It's too short term for me. You could get caught in the weekly, false breaks, and then start crashing straight back down, just like it happened here. Not interested in that per se. What I would like to see, legends, on something like this, I'd like to see a very strong crack above to invalidate, once again, this bearish momentum. Then from there, I'll look for a continuation pattern, and then I'll start rallying back to the monthly. That's the safest trade for me on the daily perspective. From the sell perspective, right, we're going to want to see these lows cleared. Why are we stating that? We want to invalidate this initial bullish run. And if we do get a strong enough impulse back below the monthly as well, stating that this initial break to the upside is now going to this false. Then from there, legends, we could expect a short-term continuation pattern and start running it down to the weekly support and potentially even all the way down to that ascending trend found on the weekly time frame. Now, one thing to factor in, legends, and I want to show you this. I'm not going to even go into the smaller time frames on this, simply for the fact that I want to show you where my green lights are. The green lights are serving as where ideally my alerts are and where my indications are for this week. And so you guys can see here that I'm looking for structure to at least push not only about 80 pips, but another 150, 200 big pushes, right? Same time, about 120 to about 200 if I want to crack the tops before I start looking for buys. Now, you guys are like, Albert, why would you give up those pips? For me, I'm not about taking every single trade. I don't need to. The way my account's compounded and the way that I've created, my yearly goals, it's not necessary. I'm just seeking for that 1 or 2 golden trades a week. That's it. And the beautiful thing about being a swing trader is that sometimes even if you don't pull your trades for the week, the reason is that we have so many extra pips that we get from allowing our positions to be to continue to run, is that they'll make up for the weeks that sometimes we don't pull the trades. That's the beauty about everything. Less is truly more. And so there's a gentleman, guys, I just want to tell you about real quick. You guys can find him on Instagram named The Ambitious FX. And recently took my one-on-one course, and this past month has been his most successful month. And I said, what was the biggest thing that has helped you? And he said, coming to the conclusion that less is more. And he said that, I've taken, I believe he said 10 trades, and it was 8 out of 10. And he said, before I thought I had to take numerous trades a day or throughout the week. And he said, taking 10 trades and hitting an 80% accuracy rate or more is all you really need to compound and be successful. And that's what you guys really have to understand. Less is truly more. So what I'm looking for in something like CAD is I want price to prove to me which way it's going to move. I don't want to have to guess in something like that. That's just not my interest. Some people be like, you got this impulse. This is all relief. And so we're going to start dropping down. Yeah, you might be right. But at the same time, some people would like, you got this impulse. This is all treated as relief. So we might rally to the upside. Yeah, you might be right. But why not just make it very simple and be like, well, I want to see that. I just want to see that. That's it. Give me above the weekly or just get me below the monthly support, right? And so that's what you guys have to come to a conclusion of. Many of you traders out there, think that, and I understand where you guys are coming from. Let's just go on this real quick. A lot of traders, feel the need to pull a lot of trades because they might not have the account balance they desire to, make the daily, weekly, or monthly income that they want from trading. And so I completely understand from that. You have traders that start with, let's say, $100 balance, so they're pushing really hard, and they make 40% on the month, which is incredible, right? Absolutely incredible. They look at the grand scheme of things and they're like, it's $40. And to some people that might be really, really satisfied with that. Others might not be satisfied with that, right? And so the ones who are not satisfied with that, what they end up doing is they're like, right, to make more money, I just got to increase the risk. Or they're like, I'm not going to add the risk exposure, but I'm going to take more trades, which in reality is increasing the risk anyway. And so they start taking more trades. Next thing you know, they start forcing trades rather than waiting for trades to come to them. And so I completely understand where you guys are coming from, legends. In the end of the day, those that are in that type of situation. But my honest opinion to you guys is, look, you don't want to make your millions in one day. And, even if you guys have small account balances that you guys are starting with, it's perfectly fine. Just work with that and keep grinding at that. No need to try to adjust in either direction. Whatever you guys have is perfectly fine. It's possible to, create, to create any size account that you want. Doesn't matter what you start with, but you have to be really smart about it. You know what I mean? And so looking at it, legends like that, going over something like USD CAD, if we don't get those movements, I'm simply not interested. And that's all that there is to it. For me, if I get one trade and it gives me 100 pips more, I'm good to go. That's how you need to look at it. US dollar, Japanese yen, once again, want to pull to the weekly only because we are breaking potentially out of structure. Quite interesting to see what is going on. So I'm going to ignore these impulses like I usually go over before, stating that, the entirety of the structure that we're in is just a big state of liquidation or relief after this huge rally. And I want to just bring your guys' attention a little bit closer to where we are after this rally was made at the late of 2016, beginning of 2017, okay? So if we take a look here, we can see that we have this huge rally to the upside, right? Really strong push up. And if you guys were trading during those times, man, were those times to be trading. I remember them exactly. We'll go over that another time. It was with Corona and the economy. No one was spending, and it was insane, nuts. But looking at it, you could really, gauge and state that this all right now could be treated as profit taking or state of relief, and we're expecting this to kick in at some point. And once this starts really cracking above potentially these highs or even above from here, we could expect big rallies back to maybe 120, 130 and so forth. But tough to say as of right now. We initially thought when, the start of 2018, when we dropped to these lows, that, this was all state of liquidation, which is still looking like liquidation. But in the moment, we thought it was liquidation. At some point, we would start rejecting, falsely breaking, and start tagging, that 100 handle, and then expect that big bullish momentum to start rallying in that you can see on, here or the monthly. And so looking at it, guys, how are we going to look at it? We right now are going to give a two-way bias, okay? So this is where the ultimate sell began, by cracking below 118, 117, okay? That is your big drop. This is a lower high just to begin with, right? So looking at it, I'm going to state this is all relief. Now within this relief, Legend's going to draw another trend. Just bear with me right here. Can see that we are breaking out. What does that mean, okay? So if we do start to flag above, makes complete sense, Legends. This is your key critical area. That's going to determine whether we're going to continue as a buy or continue as a sell. Okay, speaking very long term now. Now, on the other side, and probably Chris over there so excited because he's like, yeah, I'll ride that for like, say, 700, 800 pips. No problem, Albert. Shout out to you, Chris. And so looking at it right now, are we going to move up there or not? This last week told a lot. If this is going to warrant a false break, we're going to drop. But if this is just a state of liquidation, we're creating a higher low from the previous highs we broke, could expect a pullback and then another rally back up. Like I said, that 116, 117, that's your key critical area. So tough to say right now, but there are a couple different options that could come about, just like USD CAD correcting itself. It's very interesting, you know, the way some pairs move when they make corrections, because then you really start to take into consideration, okay, you know, what is really causing this potential correction. And so, like I said, you know, both on USD CAD and US dollar Japanese yen, there are two main viable options that could come about, but in the grand scheme of things, those aren't going to happen for probably a good amount of time. You need some type of economic catalyst to create that type of direction. So we'll see. But looking at it as of right now, Legends, we did see a huge rally to the upside, trying to invalidate this initial bearish run. Now, quickly, the bears said no thank you and decided to falsely break this entirety of a movement. You guys can see that it does create a pretty strong bearish pin bar on the weekly time frame. So what does that tell us? This is still liquidation. It's still treated as relief, right? Why? If this was definitely going to continue, which it could now because this could be treated as relief, if this does break out, then yes, this is not liquidation. We start to target 116, 117. But if this does in fact start to push even lower, which as we took a look at DXY and a lot of other pairs across the board, it looks like dollar is going to be getting weaker across the board. This potentially could cause a very nice sell all the way down, potentially to 105 and potentially even down to the 100 handle, stating that this is still in control. And this was a beautiful false break, giving huge indications that we should start expecting some serious pushes to the downside. For me, Legends, what's going to validate it is if and only if we see one more strong push down below the 110.50 handle of that previous monthly support, invalidating all of this. And then from there, I'm going to start looking for continuation patterns, continuation, drop, and just ride that the whole time. Why am I stating continuation, drop, etc.? If you guys look at how yen moves and its nature in any single type of trending movement, it will make a huge drop, a state of liquidation, another huge drop, another state of liquidation, another huge drop, another relief, and things of that nature. Same concept on the buy side. You'll see a huge impulse, state of relief, huge impulse, state of relief, huge impulse that turned into reversal, but then turned into continuation, right? For the most part, yen is a pretty trending pair that flags out quite a bit and creates some really nice plays to be taken if you can capitalize on them. I mean, these are just those you just sell all day long, right? And same thing on the buys. And so that's what I'm saying. If we do start to break below, you just start selling those flags all the way down to the lows. But please, Legends, wait for the counter trends to break. It is so annoying. It is so annoying when you see traders taking if-some entries and they think that they got the best entry in the world. I can't stand that, and I just don't think that any other trader understands what they're doing. They just don't understand what an if-some entry is. And that's fine. Like, I get it. If you know, I'm not stating that you won't have success on those types of entries. I'm just stating that they're higher risk because you're entering in a counter trend environment. But like, you know, the one thing I'm getting at here, Legends, is like, let's say, for example, someone counts this as an entire movement, right? They'll pull fibs off of it and they'll be like, oh, rejecting the 0.618. We just start buying, Legends. You just got to start buying straight away. Yup. That's what you got to do. And I'm like, how could you start buying? And they're like, well, you know, daily's ascending, you start buying. And I'm like, yeah, but momentum is still descending. So in reality, you're taking a buy in a seller's market. Doesn't add up to me. And they're like, yeah, but you know, you got resistance that turned into newfound support. You got buy pending orders, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but still, we haven't created higher highs yet. You can't tell me that we're continuing on the daily's momentum yet until we break out of this descending trend. And that's the biggest issue that I have with a lot of traders that I see on Instagram and anywhere else. And I'm not calling them out. Look, you know, for the most part, do these trades tend to push through? Yeah, I would say there's a pretty high success rate. But once again, if you start to incur this consolidation and then it starts to push through, or you incur some drawdown and then it pushes through, don't be surprised why you're entering in a counter trend movement, right? It doesn't make sense. Why would you take a buy in a seller's market? And why would you take a sell in a buyer's market? When you take a buy, you want to be in a buyer's market, and same with the sell, right? It's basic trend trading. And so if that's the case, you know, I just don't understand why people do it. I think it's just that there's so much knowledge out there that, you know, tell people, oh, you know, you'll just see so much pending orders sitting on the 618. That's why you buy it. And it's like, okay, well, what if the market decides to put it on, like, you know, the 23.6? You guys would all be screwed then, right? And so, you know, you guys would just never take trades in that sense. So what I'm stating in the end of the day, guys, is rule of thumb. If you guys take the trade on a continuation pattern, wait for that counter trend to break out before you decide to pull the trigger. Please, please Too many times I see traders say, Albert, what happened? What went wrong? And I'm like, well, you took a buy in a seller's market. Simple as that. You didn't wait for a lower, short-term higher high or short-term lower low to be created. Simple as that, right? So going back into it, legends, just take that rule of thumb. But looking at UJ on the smaller time frames and how we can approach it, two simple ways. Like I said, it's too tough to guess right now which way it's going to move. We are ascending on the daily. That's great. And we do have this impulse, which can be treated as relief for a state of liquidation. But on top of that, you do see this very strong bearish push, which is now creating a short-term flag within it. So two ways to go about. Let's not make it too difficult. If we do start to crack above where this initial bearish momentum occurred, invalidating this bearish push, from there, create a short-term continuation pattern, state of relief, right? Remember, legends, a trend needs 4 points to be called a trend and not 2. And so if that's the case, we need a higher low. And then if we do start to break out of this counter trend movement, you can start to take that all the way back above to the tops of this previous ascending rally and potentially all the way back to the weekly resistance sitting at 113.60. Now, if that doesn't happen, what we'd be looking for, legends, is we want to see a sharp push below not only the 110.77 area, but you want to drop below that monthly support, invalidating this initial bullish run and stating we are now falsely breaking. Then from there, if you guys can get a solid continuation pattern, creating your lower high, telling you a trend is now about to form once we start to break out, try to run that past the daily support and try to run that all the way down. Try to just manage that. That is a trade that you want to try to manage, okay? Failure to do either, legends. Now look, because some people be like, Albert, can I take this and can I take that trade? And I'm like, yeah, you can take that, but that's going to be warranted as short term. It's not a problem if you want to take this, but you have to take into consideration, how did this sell come about? The sell came about by breaking the lows, right? And so if this was support, this turns newfound resistance, bullish pending orders turns into bearish pending orders, et cetera, et cetera. Top of that, remember, this only has a high and a low. That's 2 points. You need 4 to formulate a trend. Even if this pulls all the way back, creates a lower high, that's 3. Once we break out of the lows, now you have your trend, right? And so that's why, legends, I'm looking for the buy above and then continuation and taking it back to the tops. I want to invalidate the sell. Most of the times when I see traders taking trades, they're not really invalidating their trades, right? Instead, they're taking them just on the basis of breaks and retests and things like that. Now, you're partially there, my friends, but at the same time, you're not, because you're not taking enough into consideration. Have to invalidate a previous movement to see a duration of a new movement. Price moves 2 ways. It appreciates and depreciates. That means up and down. Have to invalidate the others, okay? And I'm not trying to be tough on you, legends, or things like that. I just try to speak quite in an aggressive manner, in a sense that sticks in your head. I want all of you guys to be extremely successful, and so that's why I don't want you guys to make the same mistakes over and over again. I want you guys to be rolling and striving. And so moving it to GU, nothing's changed. It's very similar to EU. And so we're just going to look at it from the daily to begin. Can see a lot of pending orders sitting at this previous region. Just like EU, we do have a potential head and shoulders pattern to come about after this impulse was made. This is treated as reversal and not a state of continuation just yet. Within this, legends, there were some nice, sweet continuation patterns that you could take. There were nice ones, but that is, up to you. If you got it from the beginning of this descending momentum, shout out to you. I think we got 1 or 2 of these, but we were trying to get this last one last week. I went over that in a video I got last week on why we weren't able to pull this. It was just way too impulsive. But now looking at it, potentially we could start to rally back to the upside. I like the false break sitting within your eye. I want to show you guys real quick on this. We had that head and shoulders pattern, right? So if we do break out, we could pull all the way back. Still treated as relief for a state of liquidation. That would create your right shoulder. And then from there, legends, this 130 handle would be your neckline. If this broke out, you would expect that to break back to the neckline. And potentially, if it does below, then you're just looking to sell this all the way back to the downside. And so, give me 2 seconds, guys. Am I unmuted? Yes, I am unmuted. Cool. Sorry, guys, about that. So getting back into it, like I said, if you do break below the lows at like 127, could see a really nice rally back down, but it's going to be tough to say. Oh, I need to mute everyone. And then, cool. That works. Awesome. Okay. So looking at it, guys, even though if we don't pull back from this point here, we could all pull all the way back to where that initial sell occurred, which is by breaking the 137.92 area. And then that create a structural retest, and we still could expect another big drop back down. Just very similar to EU. And like I was stating before, right? Very, very similar. Even if we break back above into here, not necessarily interested, right? Because you are going to have some free space to rally, but you do have that weekly descending trend line here, and then you do have some key critical levels. So we shall see, legends. But right now, let's take a look at the smaller time frames. Which way are we going to move? And so, looking at it, like I said, after that impulse, we are not in a continuation pattern, but we are in a reversal pattern. But on top of that, can see very similar behaviors coming about. And so these are nice trades to take. Just remember, they are warranted as short term, because at some point we are expecting this to seriously pull back and start creating that continuation pattern that we are looking for. But looking at it, legends, from where price is currently at, we could definitely target some downside as well if we get confirmation. I had an entry here, but I didn't get a chance to pull it. That would have played out very nicely. It is what it is. I'll show you guys on the 1 hour how we could have taken it. It was just a very short-term trade, 1-to-1 risk-reward ratio on that. But once again, wasn't really interested in something like that, guys. I just had an alert on there because you can see that this whole sell occurred by breaking the current lows that that price was holding from that ascending movement here. And so this just simply created a structural retest and potentially could start dropping back down. That is very possible, but I want to show you guys from the 1 hour perspective real quick how you could have taken that, and then from there we'll go into how we can look to take it from a shorter time frame perspective on the 4 hour. And so this would have been the trade that legends would have taken. We have this huge impulse to the upside. We do see the short-term state of relief or liquidation. Now we can see that structure did falsely break 130.82, which did start to warrant potential structural retest of where price did break out. Now, once we broke out, mere indication that market momentum is continuing of this ascending push and this ascending environment. Now we do create short-term higher highs, right? But to the legends that took this entry, I am very proud of you because you took it by invalidating this initial bearish play. For me, I didn't like it only because my R&R wouldn't have been a 1-to-1, but that was viable if you had a tight stop, right? You could have taken this entry here, ran it to the top, so you invalidated this initial bearish play. Shout out to you, and this is probably going to flag out one more and start rallying back up. So let's go into the 4 hour and see how we can do that. So legends, once this loads, there we go. So looking at it from the 4 hour time frame perspective, which way we're going to move? First and foremost, let's take into account how did the bearish momentum start off. That is a bad drawing. There we go. Cool. So we started this drop by breaking the lows, meaning that all of this is treated as liquidation or a state of relief. Now, once again, regardless of how much we pull back, it doesn't matter. This is all warranted as short term, and we are still expecting this to kick in and start expecting drops back down. Now, if this was the case, this would be a beautiful 1, 2, and 3 pattern back down to the ones. And if we do break the 1, then that 3 would become a 1, basic 1, 2, 3 pattern. Shout out to the full volume training course students. For me, how would I take a buy? You could take a short-term break above, continuation pattern, start running it above. I'm not interested in that. Too much going on here. I'm not interested in that. I would be more interested in, if that occurred, taking that break back to the downside. That'd be something I'd want. Or if it breaks down from here, short-term pullback, and then we could start to drop down again. That would be another trade that I'd be interested in. Ideally, I'm not trying to figure out this. You take that and you put your stops there. It's not going to be a 1-to-1 risk-to-reward ratio. So you shouldn't really be interested in that. The sells are only going to be below here by invalidating this initial play, stating this is continuing, and we start dropping back down. But be careful, you got weekly support here, and we did false a break. Now, if we break really high above the previous weekly resistance, starting to invalidate this initial bearish momentum, we could expect short-term continuation and then start rallying all the way back up to the monthly. Still going to be short-term, legends. You got to take into account the entirety of the market that we are in. And so, I mean, you got good space within here if this breaks out, but would I take that? Well, I'll tell you guys real quick if I take that weekly. Tough legends, because like I said, if you can see where the sell occurred, that's not where the sell occurred. The sell occurred by breaking these lows here. Yeah, tough. I mean, let's see if we can see that. Yeah, you could take that. That's viable as well. That's viable as well. You could take that. Ideally, though, I'm looking for this. That's my trade. But this is really ideally the best daily scenarios for GBP US dollar. Two more legends, and then from there we will get into the questions and answers. I appreciate all of you guys that have stayed on this thus far. And so, AUD USD, nothing much has changed, like I said, and as well as NZD didn't change as well, quite identical. And so looking at it, we saw a lot of pending orders here to the left. Makes sense why price has been pulling off or rejecting. Even though we saw this huge push initially, this is not continuation, but this is reversal. Please keep in mind, legend, that AU is just basically a ranged pair. I don't know if I'm going to tag that correctly, but I did. But you guys can ideally see where AUD USD kind of sits within. You can see the false breaks below, and you can see the false breaks above as well. So this is ideally free range of where AU sits. And so looking at it, we are descending. The entirety of the momentum is still bearish, but more importantly, we are range bound, right? And so short term on either direction, the buys and sells, and even if we break out of the range or break out of the highs, you could only really expect last bullish push to be to that daily descending trend line, because this is still all treated as relief for a state of liquidation for potential continuation back down, unless we start to break back above, invalidating this initial bearish push and back above the monthly resistance. But too tough to tell as of right now. Let's take a look on the 4-hour time frame and see, okay, well, where could AU go about? This is a messy chart, legends. This is not something that I'm very interested in, but it does have viable options. You can see this huge drop. Then from there, we do start to create this range. And so within that, you see a strong enough push to the upside. Therefore, this is all treated as profit taking, a state of liquidation. Within that legend, you can see a small term ascending channel occurring. And so we're going to make it very basic and very simple. If you see a crack above, expect a short-term pullback, and then from there start rallying to the weekly and potentially to the tops of the range. Same concept here. If you guys see a drop that occurs below the daily support, invalidating this initial bullish momentum, look for a short-term continuation pattern and start running that back down to the bottom of the range, or potentially even lower to the weekly support. But you're not really trying to do much more, because even if you break back above to here, you only have short-term to that weekly daily descending trend line. Same time here, you are at the lows of the range, and we just discussed how key that weekly support was on the daily that we saw. So be quite careful, everything short term. Last but not least, legends, New Zealand dollar. Same concept, just like AU, a lot of pending orders sitting within here. Whether you want to move it down to here, we can keep that there for no, I like that better. Shows the false breaks. And so a lot of pending orders where the floors are sitting, and on top of that, we are both descending, but more importantly, range bound, right? Just like I showed you guys on AU, NU does a much better example of illustrating this, and you guys can see right here, that's just a big range that we've been sitting within. So you're just trading within the trends of that given range. Now you can see that NU has started to create somewhat of a behavior, only for the fact that when we make this initial impulse down, this is all treated as relief for a state of liquidation or profit taking. And so that is the behavior that just started to form, and we can see the same thing is coming about as of right now. We do see a very strong impulse made, followed by that, we do see a state of liquidation or profit taking. So the similar thing. Is that to say that we're going to get another one of these? 2 seconds, guys. I need to plug in one last thing. Apologies, legends. So to wrap this up and finish this off, so like I was saying, New Zealand is showing a cyclical behavior, but we don't know if that's going to come to fruition until we do break these lows. So let's take a look at the 4-hour time frame real quick, just to gauge what could New Zealand do. So within that cyclical behavior, like I said, we are range bound. And so everything's going to be quite choppy. It's expected. Cleanest plays could be above the 68.25 handle, short-term continuation pattern, and then you could expect a rally back to the daily resistance. But short-term, again, you have more margin of error if you do break back below the 67.60 handle. More importantly, 50 handle to invalidate this initial bull run. Just look for a short-term pullback, and then you could run that back down. For me, I wouldn't take that. I mean, you could, but I wouldn't take that. I would take this trade below the 67.28 short-term pullback and then drop down because I want to invalidate this whole region. It's a very strong area. I don't want to get caught in this, and this could be treated as relief or a state of liquidation and then start rallying back to the upside. All in all, it's going to be very choppy. That's not something that you legends should be interested in. And so to wrap it up, I'm not going to do the highlights today, guys. Instead, we're going to go focus more on the questions and answers. But just to tell you straight out on what I personally think EU is the cleanest play. Then I believe USD CAD's not saying you should be interested in. UJ, tough to tell right now, not interested in it. GU, yeah, you got short-term 90 pips up, and you still have to wait for about 100 pips to about 150 down. AU is nice if we crack the tops. So yeah, AU, and then so really EU and AU are the only ones that I really care about. Everything else needs to make a significant push first. But just speaking about potential trades that may be ready in the next coming hours. And so legends, just want to let you know real quick, the reason why I didn't do an in-depth approach this week on the longer time frames and things of that nature is because we haven't seen any significant change within structure. If you guys want to have a really good understanding of what I think from a monthly and weekly and daily and a really in-depth approach on how structure is going about and how it's moving, go take a look at any other webinars that I've uploaded on YouTube. Same username, ThatFxTrader. Reason being is nothing's changed. You can see that everything's basically the same. It's just false movements, choppy movements, and so they're not ideal trades as a dollar pair trader for a swing trading basis, right? And so I just want you all legends to understand why potentially I haven't pulled trades or sent trades, things like that. It's just that in my set pairs that I look to trade, the environments are not optimal. Now, to the ones that trade cross pairs, exotics, you guys potentially could have trade scenarios to take, right? But for me, right now, everything's mainly consolidated. So if I get a chance to take a trade, I'll try to. But last week, everything was too impulsive. This week, we don't have that much news. So either the trades are going to be mainly consolidated or they'll be free-flowing because there's no data. So we'll see. But right now, like I said, looking across the board, EU and EU and AU are looking really sound. We got AU news tonight. So maybe we'll get that actually could do that. AU news coming out tonight, so that actually might cause the push that we need for a potential trade. Let's see, though. And so with that, legends, thank you so much for staying on board. Going to upload this to YouTube, legends, and then now we're going to get through the questions and answers. So thank you, legends, for staying on. And now, so the ones who want to stay here to ask some questions and things like that, be my guest. Just give me 2 minutes, guys. I'm going to run to the bathroom and get a sip of water, and then from there, I will answer all the questions that you guys may have. So just give me a second, guys. I'll be right back. All right, legends, let's answer these questions. So let's see what's going on. All right. Let's see what's going on. And like I said, guys, so the guys that are here, if you guys have a question, if you guys want to unmute your mic, if you guys want to share your screen, just raise your hand in Zoom or tell me that. Write it down in the chat room, and then we can definitely go over it. The link on IG is invalid. What link? What link was that? DT asks, can you explain what you want to see by higher highs and lower lows when you state in your analysis too? Absolutely. DT Legend, do you have a mic by chance? Just be easier to communicate. If not, awesome. So I'm just going to mute your mic. Just be easier to communicate. What's up, big man? Hello? Am I just? Are you speaking or no? DT, do you have a mic or no? I think he said he did. Oh, I hope it's a he or she. Sorry if I'm assuming. I believe you do. Sorting it out. All good. But yeah, that's a really good question. We can definitely go over that because I do talk about higher highs, but I also, if you guys are part of my signals and setups, you guys notice that I'll say short-term higher highs and then higher highs needed. And then definitely take a look also, guys, at the most recent video that I just uploaded on Instagram. This one right here. I'm going to be uploading a lot to who tagged me in a photo. Let's see. We'll see it together. I don't know who tagged me in a photo. Anyways, but yeah, you guys will see this a lot here. I'm going to be posting a lot of videos as well on IGTV. So definitely take a look, but I go over how a trend formulates and then things of that nature. So definitely, legends, take a look. But DT, let me know when you got the mic all sorted, legend. And so in the meantime, while DT gets that sorted, can I review Swiss franc? Jose, yes, I can. I'm just going to jump to back, sort of. Okay, we'll go to DT, and then we'll go to DT. You there, legend?
Yeah, can you hear me, Albert?
Yes, sir. How you doing, legend?
100%. 100%.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, so let's go over real quick. So you hear me talking about, are you part of my signals and setups?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you see how I talk about, yeah, let's go over it real quick. So this is a good one, actually. So here's the signals and setups. You guys can see that. And so let's take a look here real quick. So like on your US dollar, you see, why do you think, okay, so the entirety of the structure is range bound, right?
Yeah. So
go ahead, legend. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. My question is simply, what is that short-term higher highs needed? Can you give us an example of what we're looking for, and when do we enter? Do we enter on the fifth wave or the fourth wave?
Okay. Okay, so one thing just to remember, I'm not a wave trader. I don't use any of the principles at all. It might seem potentially like there are these just like all, but in reference to how I'm looking at it, notice what I'm stating here. If I zoom in here, man, let me scroll to the side so you can see this part, right?
Yeah.
You see how this sell occurred by breaking these lows?
Yeah.
This is bearish momentum now, right? And market momentum is ascending on the daily, and then short term is ascending. I mean, short term is ascending as well. But in the current moment, we are descending, right?
Yeah, as liquidation.
Right. And the sell occurred by breaking the low. So how do we invalidate that sell? Well, we got to break back above to say that this was a false break now, right?
Can you just explain what you mean by the sell occurred below the line? Can you explain what you mean by the sell occurred below the line? Unquote.
Oh, absolutely. So notice this. This was the low. This was the low, right?
Yeah.
This is the high.
Yeah.
This is a higher low.
Yeah.
This is a higher high. At the time before this broke, this was a higher low, correct?
Okay, so it broke that trend. It broke that structure.
Not only did it break the trend, correct, but it also broke the last higher low, creating short-term lower lows. Why am I saying short-term? The reason why I'm saying short-term is, remember, the entirety of the environment is what? Range-bound. So if we break this, that's higher highs. If we break this, this is lower lows. But inside the range, it's short-term.
Okay. So can you give us an example of what those pink lines would actually look like, as if it was as if the market was playing itself out? What would be?
You got it, big man. So look, check this out. So okay, right now, notice my green lines are exactly where I'm stating need to break out. Okay. So I'll go to the 1 hour just to give you more candles on what to work with. Actually, that's messy. Let's go to 2. Here we go. Perfect. So let's go over this real quick. This was the low. This was the high. That's the higher low. This was the higher high. And then I'm going to make it very easy for you to see visually. At the time, that was a higher low, right? We can see right here that this was all a higher low. When we break this legend, this creates short-term lower lows, right? So I'm just running through so you can see how it play out after. So look, we're going to run through quickly. It's going to break out. We just created short-term lower lows, right?
Yeah.
Then now we come back. We still haven't broken out. So therefore, let's count now the downtrend. Watch. This is the high. This is the low. This is the lower high. This, let's say, we'll target all the way down. This is the lower low. This is the lower high. So therefore, where's the last lower high legend we need to break to say that, you know what, we're seeing continuation of this, and this is all relief. We got to crack this, right?
Yeah.
And so notice what my arrows say, we got to break that area to do what? To state that this, if we break out, that all of this legend is now invalid.
Invalidated.
False break. And if you think about it, we just agreed this is the lower high, right?
Yeah.
So if we break out, doesn't that create higher highs now?
Okay. So where would you enter after it invalidates that? Can you give us an example of your exact entry?
Yep, exactly. So I'd want to break, right? Now, depending how big the break, I have to gauge for. If we make a significant break, I will not take an entry because with every impulse, someone's going to take profit, right? So I would have to gauge how big the break is. In this example, to make it clear, if we made a very strong break above, I know someone's going to liquidate. I know they are. Just like we made a very strong push above, someone's going to take profit. So whenever this pulls back, same scenario as this here. Once, let's say this is the last lower high. This is how I'd look for it then. Look for a break. I'd look for a retest. I'd start running that straight up. This would be my last higher low. So my stops would be 15 to 30 pips below that to give breathing room.
Okay, so
real quick, let's say this didn't happen. Let's say it made a smaller push up, right? Let's say it did this. Let's say it did this. Would I take this? Yes, I would give it a shot if it was let's say if this was a 4-hour time frame and we looked like that and it was good enough. Yes, if it wasn't a big enough impulse and I felt like there's not enough liquidation needed and we're still going to continue up, I would take that and run it up. But remember, I don't know if you're part of my course or not, but if you are a legend, the breakout is just a mere indication. We still need confirmation by retesting and closing above in a scenario like this, and this would create a higher low. Why would it create a higher low? Notice this. In this example impulse, this is your low, this is your high, this is your higher low. And then from there, now we're moving above, about to break. If we break the highs, creating a higher high, and you invalidated this. All lights are green lights because you're moving in the same direction.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I confused in any way, let me know real quick. I don't want you to be confused.
No, I understand. So you are essentially trading the pullback to the green line or trading the liquidation. So you want confirmation of liquidation after the breakthrough back down at a support level.
I mean, the easiest way to think about it is like this. I always want to make sure that the entry I'm taking coincides with the daily's momentum.
Okay.
So if the daily's up, right? Let's make it very simple. Daily's up. What type of trade should I be looking for?
Buy.
Beautiful. Done. 4-hour. Short-term momentum is where right now, legend?
Down.
Right. Okay. Beautiful. Daily's up. Momentum. Short-term momentum down. Yeah. Tell me, legend, how I'm gonna first just prove to myself that we're continuing daily. What do I got to do? Just first and foremost,
look for breakouts to the upside.
We got to break this descending momentum to say that, you know what, legend, we are definitely continuing of this. But the breakout is an indication because we don't want to get caught in a false break, right?
Yeah.
Then from there, we'll look for our confirmation candle, our retest, and things like that. And if we receive that, then we pull the trigger.
Okay. And then just quickly, last question. When you say that it comes back down towards, let's say, that green area, for example, are you looking for a pin bar or are you looking just for it to touch that zone?
Yeah.
For you to enter? What type of... Oh, no, the one above. So if it breaks out above, invalidates the bearish momentum, and then you got more upside. So you would enter on liquidation down to that circle there. Are you? Yeah. Are you looking for price action at that point, or are you just looking for a touch? It's irrelevant.
Well, no. First, we're gonna need a break above, and then I'm gonna need another candle to basically come back, touch, retest, and close above. It doesn't matter I don't care about how the candle looks. For me, candles are indications. Look, for example, we broke this low. Check this out. Great example. We broke out of this ascending, right? But when we broke this low, we retested, right? It doesn't matter how we retested. We retested and we confirmed that this is now invalid. and then you drop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What is the definition of a retest?
A retest is so the basic definition of a retest is when price breaks a level or a trend, the next candle or next couple candles will come back and test that previous.
And there's wicks. Does it create wicks?
Potentially, right? Okay. Like potentially, for example, let me give you. These are great questions, Legend. Really phenomenal questions. And so, like, check this out. This is a good point here. We come back and we break out, right? Notice how price comes back, it retests, and then we drop again. Now, there are two types of retests which we teach in our course. One warrants a short-term movement, and one warrants a long-term movement. Because if you understand how the notion of a trend formulates through 4 points, then the second type of retest will make a lot of sense of why one of the types of retest is a much longer duration. But yeah, the basic notion of a retest is price coming back, testing that area, and then continuing down. Like, here's a very easy area. Do you know how support breaks and becomes resistance and vice versa?
Yeah.
Think about it like trends as well. Look, this is going to be an awesome example for you as well, which I don't think a lot of people discuss. But look at this. This is descending. So this is actually trend resistance, right?
Yeah.
We break above, it becomes trend what?
Support.
Right, same thing, right? You see now how it's bouncing off before it was rejecting?
Yeah.
Same thing, right? So it doesn't matter how, in this example, though, you wouldn't take the trade. You see, you can actually, so you couldn't pull the trade even if it retested there because we're short-term momentum here.
Down.
Right, but notice this, we break and we retest. You could pull that. I'm good with that because we broke out of the continuation. Okay. So
you're going in the same direction as the daily momentum.
Right,
that's the key.
In this example here, where am I entering? In a bullish market or bearish?
Bullish.
Right, but if I entered here, I'd be entering in a what?
Bearish.
Right, in which the daily momentum is actually where?
Okay. Bullish.
Right, you see, I want everything to line up in a straight line.
Okay.
For me, the game is a puzzle. It's my job to put the pieces together. That's my job.
Yeah.
That's it. My job is not to guess. My job is to say, okay, when this happens, how am I going to act?
Yeah. Just last question. Referring back to the retests, what tends to happen with me a lot is I pull the trigger too early on the first retest, and then I get whipsawed, and I tend to pull out of the position emotionally before the move actually happens. When is the right time on a retest to enter? Does it not really matter? You just have to enter and just let it be patient?
Great question. So look, I'm going to take away a trend first. Let's just go over. Let's say we were descending like this, and then from there, we broke. And let's say there was a resistance here, right? And you see a break and a retest. And have you noticed it'll retest? You'll take it. It'll do this, and then that, right?
Yeah.
You'll notice that every time, right?
Yeah.
So that goes over the types of retests that we teach in the course, but not even going over that. Here's a very basic way to fix it. So look, in this example here, that's our high. This is our low. This is our lower high. This is our lower low. Lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, right?
Yeah.
Even if we break out of here and it looks like a break and retest, whatever, DT, have we ever broke out of the last lower high? Have we ever created?
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, right. Like, once you do this, then it's like, yeah, we're creating higher highs. But look, you don't enter on this. With every impulse comes what, big man?
Liquidation. So you enter on the liquidation. Okay.
I mean, you can take this.
Okay.
If you take it, this is going to be short term because at some point
that's
expecting.
Yeah. I've always just traded the small retest, and I've never looked at the break of the previous lower high. So you've cleared up a lot.
You got it invalidate.
It's amazing.
You got to invalidate the structure. You know what I mean?
It's amazing. It's amazing. So, sorry. Last question. Are you invalidating just the last lower high, or would you invalidate the entirety of that structure?
This is beautiful. You know what your homework's going to be that I'm going to give you? Go watch my last 3 webinars and just go watch the full length ones, okay? Watch this. Let's go over this. And now this is a great lesson for everyone watching this. Shout out to you, DT, for these questions. So look, in its entirety, this is the momentum, right?
Yeah.
So this is the high and this is the low. This is a lower high right now, right?
Yeah.
Watch this. Even if we break out, what if I tell you this is short term? Why? DT. How did the sell start? By breaking what? This base, this. last high or low. How do I know it's the last high or low? I'll highlight them in green. Watch. Low, high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Let's just keep going. Let's say this is the high, and let's say this is the higher low, right? When we break here, this creates lower lows, right? And tells us that momentum is now switched, right? But it's just telling us lower lows creating. Go watch my video on here, because on the IGTV, I go over why continuation patterns are important. But check this out. Because it's only an impulse, a trend needs 4 movements. It can't just have 2. So in a bear market, watch this. This only has 2. What do we still need? A lower high and a lower low to form a trend, right? So even if we break out of here and create short-term higher highs, why am I saying it's short-term? Because we could come back and then start to drop again, unless we invalidate this and start breaking back above.
Okay.
So this is when you're taking structure in its entirety into account, not just the smaller time frames.
Okay.
Because now you have understandings of, and you might say, Albert, I understand that this is all liquidation, right? But you know what the big question is, DT? How long is it going to be called liquidation for? And so now you should understand the length of this duration ends here, because this is where the sell began. The moment we break back above, then you cannot call this a state of liquidation anymore. You must call it an ascending trend. Fair enough?
Okay.
Greatest example is this. It's a pretty long descending channel, but we never break the lows indefinitely. And then once we break out, and then once we break these highs, we're definitely continuing, which is why you call all of this liquidation. Same thing here. This could pull all the way back, and then boom.
So the correct trade to the left-hand side would have been the break of the previous high, the previous low high, which it did do. Can you just
you're gonna understand so much now. So look, we had this impulse. Watch this. This was your descending trend line, and check this out, legend. It's your high. Then this is your low. This is your lower high. This is your lower low. Watch this. This is your lower high, right? When we break out, we create short-term higher highs. Notice how we pull back and retest. Remember, though, in the smaller time frames, this would be where? Descending or ascending?
Descending.
Right. Remember, you're still looking for buys. So once this, look, you can even take it here. Breaks, retest, you could just go. But that's short-term again, right? Look, you get the pull back again. Look at this. You could get entry here, stops below here, and ride that up again.
So that's the trade there. That's the trade where the circle is over there.
In my opinion, I would have pulled twice. This is what I would have done. I would have pulled here and stopped here. Why? How did this sell start? By breaking this low, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Are you not referring to the previous lower high? Are you not, sorry, the lower high?
Yeah, because I know there's going to be pending orders there.
Okay.
The only time I know I'm free flowing is once we break the highs, then it's free flowing. Then it's free flowing.
Okay.
So notice that I would have pulled once here, just ran it to there. But you have to remember, you might be like, that's short term. We're actually talking about 120, 130 pips, right? Then notice this. We make a huge impulse, all relief. Once we break out, we retest. Your stops are about, I know it's kind of big, 147, but you're targeting the tops again. So it's at least 2 to 1 because you're targeting over 200 pips, right?
Yeah.
And this is just basic. Look, and then you just play them every time again. Impulse, relief, you just keep going.
Yeah.
What do you think, big man?
Thanks so much. You cleared up a lot. And then, just with your signal group, I'm new to the signal group, so I just wanted to know.
Welcome aboard. By the way.
Thanks so much. Do you post when you post the signal? Is that you taking the actual trade yourself?
Correct.
Is that your post? So when that signal's posted, it's as if you clicking that on your real account.
Yes.
Okay.
That is why you guys that's why I tell a lot of people who are part of the signals and setups, and look, that's why I tell people, look, I don't really classify myself so much as a full-blown signal provider. I classify myself as someone who cares more about the educational side. And so, but what I tell people is, look, if you want the full extent of, how I'm looking to take trades, take into account my setups, right? This is why I provide as much as I can. This is why if I don't send as many signals, because personally I'm not taking any, others can do it. So I provide all the setups. Then on top of that, you get all my personal alerts. These are all my indications right here. All my indications. And then at the same time, you also have my webinars, which I'm telling you guys exactly how to take the trade. And usually on Tuesdays when I post the webinars, I'll post highlights as well. So you guys can have a quick rundown of how I'm looking to assess every single trade. And then so you guys, and like I said, every week the setups play out every single week, even if I don't call them. So that's why I always tell people, if you go by the setups, you'll be golden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I said, though, but my goal is always to get between like I said, I give minimum 1-2 a week, if not more, because personally, though, you have to remember, I'm looking for those 1-2 trades that are going to give us accumulation of 100, 150, 200 plus pips.
Yeah.
Less is more. Less is more in my book.
So is it safe to say that over the past 2 weeks or so, there's been no signals, you haven't been trading?
The last week I didn't trade. The week before we traded, and
we had those false.
Because, the week before but I explained why we got beat up. But what's interesting is that in its entirety, we're still up on the month because UC saved us. But we don't have the best. This is, like I said, this quarter we didn't start so hot on. I mean, in reference to the setups, all the setups play out, but we're still up for pips. And then last quarter we did extremely well, extremely well. So, but conditions have been extremely choppy. So that's why it's very important to be managing risk in certain circumstances like this.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I like to be honest with everyone and let them know my insight as a full-time trader. I didn't pull any trades last week. That's just a blunt truth. I'm not going to come lie to you guys and be like, yeah, I'm making $2 million this week. You know what I mean? It's like, if I didn't pull a trade, I didn't pull a trade,
Yeah. And do people who buy your course get extra VIP service from you than the people who are just buying the $50 signal service? Is there a one-up?
To be blunt, if you want to really learn how to there's a bunch of students in the course that are part of this right now that could speak on this, but to be blunt, if you want the full extent of what I can offer you, just go take my course, because not only do you get in the course, but you get live training every Sunday. It's whether you take the one-on-one or you do the full volume, we have weekly workshops where students can come in and just blast me with questions, which I love. On top of that, you got a private chat room, right? And then I'm constantly updating the course with new material, always.
Okay. So thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, really the course is really where you can get everything that I can give you guys. That's really where I want everyone to be going, because in the end of the day, my goal is I want everyone.
How many pages is the course? Is it
the course is an online course. So I offer 2 courses. I offer a one-on-one course, which is you get my full volume training course, and that has all the videos that teaches you everything. 18 hours of course content, and I think in total it's like 20 or 30 plus hours of video material. Then you get all the additional stuff, and then the one-to-ones, you get the course plus I teach you straight directly. We work 3 times a week, 2 hours at a time. You get the recorded sessions. I give you homework, the whole rundown. We customize it exactly. The one-on-one is very customizable. We do it exactly to your preference. So the course material itself, I believe, is 16, 17, or 18 hours, something like that. The course material itself. And then additional videos inside, we got to be sitting at 25, 30, or maybe above.
Okay. Thanks so much, Albert. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Legend, if you need anything, just send me a message on Telegram or Instagram, whatever you need.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Next. Kunal, did I answer your question, Legend, when I was talking to DT? I know. And then technical trading. I'm gonna mute your mic.
Hey, Albert.
Big man, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
Alive and well. I will. Before we get started, I will tell you this, guys. Make sure you're following Technical Trader 123. He is a gentleman that has been working with me. It's just a very hardworking gentleman, and we got some really good ideas for everyone down the line in Q4 in 2019. And so he is someone that will be very close to our community, very close to our family. And so make sure you guys are following him. His username is the one on Instagram as well. I support this man very much. So, Legend, how are we doing? How was your weekend? All good?
Yeah, all good, man. All good.
Good. What's up? What's the question?
I got a question. Can I show my chart?
Yes, sir. Of course. Always.
Okay.
All right. Let's get into it.
Can you see my chart?
Yes, sir. Look at that. Nice and clean. Beautiful, huh?
Yeah. I got 2 questions. First question is, this is a if sum entry, right? What if entry?
Yeah. If you were you taking the circle?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, that's if sum, because here, I don't know, are you full screen? Can I annotate? Let me see.
Yes, I think you can annotate.
I just tried drawing. I think you're full. You got to just get out of the full screen. Right. Remember how we did it last time?
Yeah, exactly. Like this? You can see it now?
Yeah, good. No, I think you're still, let me try drawing. No, you're still full screen, I think.
Wait, escape.
You see where the blue, yeah, that one, just get out of that. Okay, that should be good.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you can just extend it out, like just drag the whole screen. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this would be a if sum entry only because only because you can see here market momentum is moving where?
Ascending.
Your entry's here, and your stop is here.
Yeah, exactly.
Short term to the lows here, because this can all be treated as what?
A relief.
Right, for continuation back to the upside, right?
Yes, exactly.
Good. Now look, once we break the lows, it tells you we're starting to invalidate this. Now look, I like what you did. You don't enter on impulses, right?
No.
Always wait for the pullbacks. But like I said, we went over. I know you were questioning this a lot. Remember your option B versus option A. You could take option B.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Just option A will just give you the more confirmed trade. That is all. Like I said, down the line, Legend, we're going to get you to the point where your goal in 3 to 5 years is only pulling option A. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Yeah. And so the next question was like, for instance, if you can go straight to the daily, I think circle. As you can see right here on the daily time frame, we had to invalidate this first. For example, right here, if you pull it right here. And now we've broken this, but we have a strong rejection area on the 4 hour, as you can see right here, where the bullish momentum started. And my question is, once you manage the trade, right, and you can see that right here, we're like consolidating, if you can see like this, we're not moving for a couple hours already. How would you manage the trade if this happens to you, for example?
Well, go to the 1 hour. Your stops should be at break even already.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, good. Then at that point, you just have to wait. Once the lows break, then you put stops to take profit. So for example, this is what you're working off of right now. Leave it there. So this is what this is what you care about. Is this? Oh, okay. Last one. Okay, let me try one more time. So you care about this trend right here, and that's all you care about. Because think about it. This is what you care about the most. If we start breaking out here, you don't even want to be in the trade, because think about it. Then you can just take this continuation trade when it breaks out and start running it down again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So my whole point is, if your stops are even, you're good to go. You know the position management video, right? If this breaks out, then you can move your stops to here, because you're not expecting price to come back to there. You're just expecting price to come back to the previous low, create a lower high, and start moving again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Breaks back into here and stops you out, that's okay, because then this is a false break.
All right.
Right? So your whole goal is stops are break even. If we break the lows, you move your stops. If not, you can honestly, you only care about that. The moment this breaks, you want to be out of it, because you can take continuation of that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. That was my question. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Legend. So I answered everything?
Yeah, you answered everything. Thank you.
Awesome. Keep chugging along. Proud of you, big man.
Thank you.
Always, always. I'm just going to get back to my screen, Legends, and then we will finish up the questions. Okay. And then please forward me this video. Like I said, guys, these webinars will be on YouTube, and so you guys, I can't put them on IGTV because they limit me on the duration. So all these webinars will be on YouTube as always. If you guys have any remainder questions, by all means, pop them in. If not, it's perfectly okay as well. Bernard, how we doing, Legend? Do you have a question? Yeah, you have a mic? And Kunal's got a question too. All right, we'll go Bernard first, then we'll and then keep going, guys. If you guys got questions, just list them down below so that we can just bang them out, and then from there we'll conclude the webinar. So we'll go Bernard right now, and then Kunal, and no one else got a question after Kunal. Actually, is Philly here? Yeah, I owe Philly a Euro AUD chart. Is that correct, Philly? Let me know if that's correct. I believe I owe you Euro AUD chart. If that's the case, I'll bang that out for you too. Let me know. But all right, Bernard, big man, how you doing?
What's up, Albert?
Doing well, doing well. What's going on?
Well, I saw an history on Instagram
Say it
from
again.
you. I saw an history, well, a question on Instagram
Okay.
to you, and let me just wait. Well, it was actually about um like swing trading, but in a smaller time frame.
Yeah.
So I don't know how does that work. I know it's a lot riskier because of the levels,
Are
but
you are you
I don't,
are you referring to turning a intraday trade into a swing?
yeah, something like that.
I mean, to be frank, you know, the goal of any trader should be to turn their position and try to ride it as long as they can to just accumulate as many pips as possible. But you know, the one thing that I'll stress to you, Bernard, is you first have to dictate whether you want to swing or scalp, and then you have to first, you know, come to a conclusion of that foundation. Then once you're at that foundation, then you start to create you start to create little rules in there, as in how many pips you go for a trade, how do you go about it, and things like that. Now, turning, are you asking my opinion on it or how we actually go about it?
Yeah, how would you go about it? I mean, I know we have to wait for bigger time frames to break in order to
Think about it like this. Let's just go over the entries of a 4 hour and like on a 1 hour trade real quick, right? And then we're going to circle that and go to a 15-minute. Okay. So
okay.
You see all of this, you know it's relief, you know it's liquidation, right? Let's say that's the low that you want to break to start taking the trade, right? So let's go to the 15 now. And it's like, okay, well, here's the 15-minute. And what would you go about doing? Well, some traders would take this. They would just look projections for wicks. Some people would wait for the previous lows. So look at this. Maybe some traders would wait for these lows to break. You're creating short-term lower lows. And then they would do a trade like this. They'd maybe say, well, my stop, I mean, that's still too big of a stop. I don't even think they would go for that. But even if you're turning an intraday trade into a scalp, maybe something like this, and then once they break the lows, they're just letting it run forever. There's no difference on, you have to understand this, and this is what I have to get to. There's no difference on the executional side from a swing and scalp. There is no difference. Turning it into a, let's say, swing from an intraday trade, you have to gauge how much movement you have next to the key level. For example, if you end up getting this entry here, you got enough room to come all the way down to the end of the range, right? But even regardless if you're a swing or scalp, if you get an entry above here, swing or scalp, I don't care who you are. You only have so much movement to the upside. So what you have to gauge is, regardless of how you enter, how much movement you have left till kind of, you know, we're done with that certain movement. But the principle of it, Legend, there's no difference. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You take the same entries as if it would on the 4 hour.
Correct. The parameters are just smaller. Your take profits and stop losses are just smaller. Now, my only issue with intraday trading or scalping is that your margin for error is so much tighter.
Okay.
For example, I can mess up my entry and still be a winner. If you mess up your entry, you've lost.
Yeah.
Right? Because you only have, you know, 5 pips of stop loss to deal with. I got 50. I have 100. I don't care. I care more about being right about the direction of the trend. I'm a statistical player. See, the biggest issue with Instagram and stuff like that is everyone shows, you know, these flashy trades of these huge R&Rs and stuff like that. And it's like, good for you. You have a great R&R, but I'll take my success rate every single year. You know what I mean? And my success rate is scalable from a psychological perspective, you know?
Yep.
It's more about scaling your brain, not scaling your account.
Okay, yeah, because, well, what happens to me, I tend to get I don't know, to be like in doubt, because in the group, many people take trades, and you know, you get like that sensation that you are like missing out, you know?
Right.
And I just want to try to understand why they are taking those trades.
And look, that's a great question. And my response to that, Bernard, I have no clue. You know, like people will come to me and be like, Albert, they took your course and they're taking a trade, but you didn't signal it. What do you think? And I'm like, well, first off, you know, for the most part, people who are, let's say, you know, taking trades in the Asian session or whatever it is, typically speaking, you know, I'm not, you know, that's not the way I would approach it. And secondly, you know, you have to remember, you know, if someone's taking a trade, who knows if they're right? You have no clue. You know, don't just, you know, you have to remember, would you agree, Bernard, that there are millions of opportunities every week?
Yeah.
If someone wants to take 100 trades a week, let them take 100 trades a week. Your goal is just to be a winner every week. That's it. You have to remember, it's more about Bernard than anything else, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
you can take one trade.
Right.
That's it.
And that's it. You know what I mean? You have to also remember this. Don't focus on anyone else for two reasons. One, you don't know how long their experience is. You don't know how long they've been in the game, right? If there's someone out there like, you know, for example, one gentleman in our group, his name's Dean, phenomenal trader. He's a full-time trader. Shout out to you, Dean. He takes a lot of trades during the week. And the reason being is because that's what his style calls for. I mean, not many, but takes a good amount. And he's an intraday trader. A lot of people are like, well, why can't I take that many trades? And I'm like, well, you have to factor in. Dean's been in the game a very long time. You know what I mean? It's, you know, that's his comfortability, and that's what he likes to do. You have to do with what's going to work best for Bernard. If making 1-2 trades a week and getting 100, 200 pips a week is golden, then you do that. You know what I mean? For me, Bernard, I just want to get my sweet plays. I want to be able to, you know, get a good amount of pips from it and go on about my week. That's it. I'm not so as your goal, Bernard, is as you go on through the game, you care less and less about taking as many trades. This quote that I'm about to tell you right now, Bernard, should live with you forever, and it comes from Warren Buffett. His whole methodology on investing is just as a baseball player hits a baseball. So does a baseball player swing at every single pitch, Bernard?
Yep.
He does, or does he wait
no.
He waits for the perfect pitch, right?
Yep.
So what do you think you as a trader should do then in that metaphor?
Yeah, waiting for the ball.
Waiting for your look, just like when you're playing soccer, you're doing anything else, you want to wait for that one correct pass to take your shot, right?
Yep.
Same thing. Make sense?
All right. Yep.
Beautiful. Legend, any other questions that you had?
No, that's it.
No worries. I'm sorry?
No, that was it.
Okay, no worries. And so, always. And Kunal, Legend, let's get to you. I'm going to unmute your mic. Kunal, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
How you doing, Legend?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. The thing is, like, I started trading 6 months ago. I'm from India, by the way.
Oh, very nice to meet you, Legend. Shout out to Kunal all the way from India.
Yeah, I live in Mumbai. It's like I live here. I'm trading for like 6 months, and now I'm gaining some kind of like consistency. I'm just understanding the patterns. Mostly like I trade breakouts, the trend line breakouts with the means the main trend, the retest trend, and the break of that retest trend. I just trade that one.
Okay.
So can you just tell me that when to execute? I don't understand the thing like where to execute the trade. I understand the trade. I can analyze any pair. It's like I don't understand where to execute the trade. And whenever
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, whenever I feel like I should execute now, it's like no. It creates a confusion in my mind because it's like then I feel like this one candle will only complete the full trade and I will miss out on this one.
Right. No, I'm with you. The one thing is, Kunal, and I have to just be honest with you, it's very tough for me to tell you directly, and I'm just being honest with you, how to take the trade, only because there's many different ways that we approach the structure and take the trade. The one thing is, were you watching when I was going over with DT and how we invalidate structures and things of that nature?
Yeah.
So that is the idea, and that is the basic principle that you want to be going off of. Now, like I said, for me to explain to you how to take the trade, I would need 10 hours, 20 hours with you to go over exactly how we go about it in that sense. You know what I mean? But in this sense, right, so that I can give you an idea and give you things that you can start working on, Legend, you really want to be going over invalidation of previous trends to see continuation of that overall momentum. And on top of that, when you are invalidating or you are breaking out, never take your entry just on a breakout, because a breakout's a mere indication. It's just telling you that you're breaking out. You always need confirmation. Now you might say, well, Albert, how do I receive confirmation? And once again, that goes into, it's explaining the entirety of how we execute. But start your basis off of invalidating previous structures. And the best way, if you're not a part of my training course, Legend, is go through my YouTube webinars and just really look at how I'm looking to take trades, and go through my Instagram photos and see the setups that I'm sending and what my arrows are showing that needs to happen for me to take trades and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Best suggestion to start working on.
Yeah, I watch you every day. I like your YouTube videos. I watch them every day, and it's like it makes me sense, because it was like when the trend line broke, I was like, okay, let's sell. Okay, let's buy. But now I just wait for the previous. Like if I'm selling in a market, I wait for the previous higher low to break, and if I'm buying in the market, I wait for the lower high to break.
Right. No. And you're right. But you have to remember, the breakout's just a mere indication. So you have to remember, Kunal, that you have to be looking for some type of confirmation, some type of retest, something that's telling you that breakout is definitely valid.
Yeah. And I even don't understand how to add positions on the running trade. It's like
I'm sorry?
I even don't understand how to add more positions on running trade.
Right.
On
And
a winning trade.
Like this is what I tell people in the end of the day, Kunal, and I'll be honest with you, and I'll be honest with everyone else. The reason why I always suggest that when you guys are interested in getting into FX or are interested in going to learn or whatever it is, really try to find someone that's going to teach you, whether it's me or it's someone else. Just being blunt, because if that person is truly who they say they are and they know how to trade, they've done the pain for you. They went through the trial and error. Like Kunal's saying right now, I don't know how to add multiple positions, how to manage my positions, how to go about this and that. That's why I always tell people, and people always ask me, why should I take your course? And I'm like, well, I did all the trial and error for you. I did all the pain.
Yeah.
And you see that as students are becoming successful quite quickly. And so for you, Kunal, what I try to do is, the only problem with finding information online is that there's so much general information and it doesn't tell you how to package it in one structured system. And so, if you, I would, my biggest recommendation would be come and join the team. But if that's not a viable option, Legend, then I would say try to study the hell out of my posts, my webinars, videos, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's 4 a.m. over here.
You're amazing. You're amazing, Legend. Shout out to you.
Yeah, I didn't sleep tonight. I was like just watching videos. I wasn't. Do you know Maxima Investments?
No, I do not.
Okay, so I was with him. I blew my account. The training was good, but the two of my accounts were blown away. It was like very painful for me. So I just left from there, and now I'm like trading by my own.
Right.
It's 4 over here. Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And just to tell you, Kunal, and everyone else, I'm sorry, guys, that you had to go into all of that pain and had to go to other people that unfortunately didn't have good results. This kind of goes into DT's question. He said, how many full-time traders are a result of your course? As of right now, within about the last 20 months, I don't have a direct count, but off the top of my head, I believe we have above 40 full-time traders. Many of them are public and have Instagram names and stuff like that. But a good chunk of them as well are private and don't like to be in the spotlight at all. I will, and this is the one thing that I'll tell DT, I'll tell everyone else. At the end of the day, is I will never sell you the $1 million dream. I will never sell you you're granted that you're going to be a full-time trader, because nothing's granted in life. But what I tell people is this: in the end of the day, we have a winning formula, and not just because I say it, but because it's relived through my students. For me, my track record is my students, and so the way I look at it is the way you're going to be successful is you have to commit to the way we approach things. And that's why you always hear me repeat, trust the process, trust the process, trust the process. Because when you really commit to how we approach structure, you're going to be doing well. There are just simple rules that you have to follow. And if you follow, you're going to be chugging along. Technical Trader 123 is a phenomenal example. I mean,
I know him.
Yeah, he's in the group right now. Within the last, he's part of the course and he's been striving along. And within the last, he joined the mentorship and we're doing the one-on-one too. Excited for that, Legend, in September. And so he has made night and day strides. you know, I'm gonna give you a little shout out on this, but you know, just looking at someone like him and his strides, you know, you can really see, Legends, just you know, how over time your analysis just gets so much better, and you can really predict over time. And so this is how I have people judge me, through my track record of my students. So shout out to you, big man. But I will tell everyone this, you know, from what I've noticed in the last 20 months or so, the ideal time frame that people are pulling the trigger and going full time for my course is a minimum duration of about 12 months. And then the longest so far, of course, is 20 months and going. But ideally, it's been between 12 and 18 months that people have.
Yeah. I follow him. The technical trader.
Yeah, he's the man. He's the man. But Kunal, Legend, was I able to answer that question? Oh, I think your mic just got muted, Legend. I'm not sure what happened, Kunal, on that. I don't know why I can't unmute your mic now. I'm sorry, Legend. I don't know why. It's not letting me unmute your mic for whatever reason. I'm trying. I'm clicking a lot. It's not working. But Kunal, Legend, I hope I was able to answer your question in on that sense. And so, you know, once again, guys, I just want to say thank you so much to every single person that has come out. I really appreciate it. You know, DT, I would absolutely love to have you on board. You know, if you guys want to discuss more, talk to me through Instagram and things like that, by all means, go straight ahead and do so. You know, I will tell you this, guys, in the end of the day, you know, the people that I'm constantly posting about on my Instagram story and stuff like that, they're workers. You know, it doesn't come easy. They're putting in the time, you know. You know, you can just see in the group right now, you know, there's one gentleman here by the name of Galaxy Note. He's been with me over a year. He's been doing extremely well. Jose, Mehdi, Philly, I'm going to give you your AUD before we come off, technical trader, etc. You know, and even Chris is a great example, Legends. This gentleman, Chris, that we got in here. No, he doesn't have an Instagram, if you guys are going to ask, but you know, he just started really seeing his potential within trading within the last month, you know, finished the month or the quarter, whichever, with like 2,000 pips, which was incredible.
Yeah. Can you just pull on the GBP USD chart?
Oh, hello. Hi, what's up?
Can you just pull up the GBP USD chart? I just want to take you to the past 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, 2014. It was like I saw a trend line break over there, and it was a valid one. Yeah, there. Yeah, there. Yeah, there one. Yeah, there. Yeah, not this. Can we just draw it from?
I was just drawing the trend line, but your trend line was sitting like that. That was the trend line.
Yeah. It wasn't break.
What's up?
It wasn't a break.
What wasn't a break?
Okay. So my charts, I think there's a problem with my charts because this is a daily time frame. The same trend line I drew, but the third, 1, 2, 3, the fourth touch, it was like it broke the trend line.
I mean, in this case, though, you have to remember, this is good for DT as well. The sell wasn't valid until we broke the lows. Once we broke the lows, then you can start chugging down.
Okay.
So this
Thank you.
Just to invalidate this, you just have to break the lows just to start.
Yeah.
Pushing to the downside. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It really made sense.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, Legend, I don't mean to be short with you. I just have to run off. But is there any last minute questions that I could fill up for you? Was I able to get all that?
No. Everything is solved now.
Beautiful. Kunal, if you need it, no, Legend, okay?
Yeah.
I'm
yeah, thank you.
Always, Legend. No worries. Always here for you. And so quickly, guys, real quick, I owe this to Philly. Last week, he asked for Euro AUD. I wasn't able to get it to him quick enough. And so, Philly, this is for you, big man. And then I'm going to finish off the webinar, Legend. So, Philly, take a look. We are range bound to start. Market momentum is ascending here, okay? On top of that, you're just trading within the basis of the range, okay? We can see that we have this huge impulse to the downside. We can see that the low started by breaking here. Therefore, this can be warranted as a structural retest. This is your key area near here. Two ways this is going to go about, Legend. This is treated as relief right now. Either A, Legend, we're going to break the low, pull back, and then you can expect to drop down, right? and that will warrant all of this as relief for further continuation to the downside. Or if we break above, this is short-term failure to the upside. Cleanest buys are going to be above the top sledging. Cleanest sells are going to be below. You want to start invalidating this initial bull run. But once again, you are just trading in the basis of the range. You want to see what is going to happen within this range of consolidation. Does that make sense, Legend? Let me know, Philly. You got it. Like I said, I always deliver. I always deliver to you guys. And so, to wrap it up, legends, in the end of the day, you guys are absolutely amazing. Seriously, shout out to all of you guys. I'm very, you know what I'm so excited about, guys, is, the masses of the training courses really started happening about 6 months into teaching and stuff like that. And so that's what I'm really excited about is within the next 6 to 12 months to see how many more students are going to be pulling the trigger and going full time. It's not to say that that didn't come with a tremendous amount of hard work. Like, as the quote goes, guys, you lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. Same concept here. Regardless, if I provide you with the tools, guys, to do some serious damage in the markets, you guys got to commit to what you guys are doing. Regardless of what you guys do, in the end of the day, you have to commit to it. If you guys commit, you guys are going to be swinging along just nicely. And so all in all, legends, you guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for hanging on with me. Thank you so much for staying on. I now have to run off, unfortunately, but just know that these webinars, guys, will always be uploaded to YouTube. They always occur every single Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And so tell your friends, tell everyone, always trying to make these as big as we possibly can. My goal, guys, hopefully by December, if not next year, is I want to see 1,000 people per webinar. That would be absolutely amazing. And so, legends, tell all your friends, tell families. I don't know who you got to tell, but let's really get these going. So thank you so much, as always, for popping on board, guys. This was a solid 2-hour webinar. You guys are amazing. And I will see you guys all throughout the week. Trade safe, be smart. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of the week, guys. I'll speak to you guys soon.